The marker brand featured in this video have been provided to me by OtakuFuel.com. Hey guys, so this is the package I received from OtakuFuel for this review slash demo slash thing of glorious wonder. So let me show you guys, let me just show you what this is of. Obviously you've seen the title and the clip at the beginning of the video, but I wanted to open it on camera. It's flipped over so you can't see the addresses because you ain't being no...
Hey guys, this is Sean from OtakuFuel. I just wanted to interject a small editor's note here. The entire Kirarina line is intended more for a paper crafting audience as opposed to comic and manga artists. I'm bringing this up because Jonathan mentions later in his review how it would be nice to see some flesh tones added to the color palette that Kirarina has put out. While I agree with that, because the target audience for this brand is more for paper crafting, I wouldn't hold your breath. I mean, that would be nice, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon. So that is a bummer. But anyways, Jonathan did an awesome review. It was very thorough, demonstrating compatibility with different paper types, different blending techniques, some blending techniques you may not have thought of with these markers before. But he even drew a picture of Hime. If he was trying to score some brownie points, it worked. As any of you know that are following me on socials, I love fan art of our mascots, Hime and Hineko. So yeah. Anyways, this isn't my review. It was supposed to be just a little editor's note. So let's get back to the TheJIMCreations.
Now, you guys are probably wondering, what's Kirarina if you've never heard of it? Well, Kirarina is a Japanese pen brand that offers a variety of markers, including the twin, I think that's a play on words, I think that's twin oil-based markers, the wink markers, the cute markers, and many more. They also offer some papers as well, but the marker we're reviewing today is the Kirarina twin water-based. So here's one of the ones I was sent, and they don't have any names that I can read because I'm American and I cannot read Japanese letters. So we have a pink like color, and so these markers they're dual ended, as you can see. One end is the chisel end and the other end is the bullet nib. These markers are also bicolor. By bicolor, it means that both sides of the marker are two different colors. So for example, the chisel nib is a lighter color or a lighter tone of the color of marker, and the bullet nib is a darker tone of that color of marker. So that's gonna add a really cool effect into creating pieces. So an alternative to this is that these markers operate like Crayola markers almost, since they are water-based or any other water-based marker. But the really cool thing is that they're dual-ended, so that, say, for example, you have a big block of color or a big space you're going to color in, you would use the chisel nib to color the big space in, and then you could shade it in with the bullet nib and then blend it together like so. So you see here I have this really lopsided circle because I just freehanded it and I wasn't going to sketch out the circle. So what you do is you would color it in with the chisel nib, and if you want a flat solid color, you can go over it multiple times to get the flat solid color you want, and then you can go in with either a different color, or if you want to use just one marker, you can use the bullet nib and you can add shading on the side you want shading on. A good method for doing this, I would say, is cross hatching, since that would help you out more, or if you just want to do like a really organized scribble, that could work too. And then what you can do is you go over it, and there you go, it blends it out. So there we go, that's an example. Now let's head into some paper types that we can try out with these markers, and deciding in what type of paper would work best with using these markers, whether it be copy paper or a cardstock or a sticker paper. We will check and see that right now and see what would be best in using these markers. So here is the B Paper Company the paper. It's a 93-pound paper, and it's considered super deluxe in case you're looking for the brand of paper. And we are going to try out this teal turquoise color on this paper and see how it works. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go in. What we're gonna do with the marker is we're first gonna lay down how the marker looks on the paper. So the colors look really, really vibrant on the paper, which is really good. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go off to the side of each color and we're gonna try and blend it in and see what we can do. So as you can see already, the bullet nib, if you go on top, already blends in really nicely with the chisel nib. Let's try it the other way around. Basically the same, but if you look really closely, the top one, the bullet nib on top of the chisel nib, worked a lot better than the chisel on top of the bullet. And now we're gonna do a little trick that I learned because of doing watercolor for a really long time. The name, it's water-based. So what does that mean you can do? Oh, you can just go on top and you can add water. So that's obviously not gonna do much. What we're gonna do is we're gonna lay down some of the marker. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it and we're gonna try and do what we can with it. And now since they are water-based, it's gonna be different than a watercolor. You're gonna have to work hard with it. So the lighter colors don't work as well, but for example, let's try a darker color. So let's actually try the bullet nib and see what we can do. As you can see, the watercolor didn't work all that well. I will elaborate further on in the video about how to do this watercolor technique. So again, using the same color, we are now on the smooth Bristol 100-pound paper, and we're gonna lay it down just like we did before. And already we can see that it's a smoother lay down. It's a little more streaky, but you can blend that. So compared to the B paper, smoother paper looks a little nicer, but let's see what we can do. Ooh, and it's more vibrant as well. So let's try blending now. So let's just get that color in there, saturate it, and then we're gonna take the chisel nib and blend it in and see what can happen. Okay, so that's using the chisel, well, the bullet nib over the chisel and then blending it in. Let's try it with this one. So personally, again, I would go with the first option because it looks a little nicer and a little more even. Blending with the B paper, the B paper, wow. Blending with the B paper was easier than the smooth Bristol, but the smooth Bristol's lay down of the color looks a lot nicer. So again, let's try this little watercolor technique we did. So I'm gonna lay down some of this color. Ooh, is this one drying up already? Oh no. There we go. Okay. So now I'm gonna take my brush and ooh, so the more water, the better it looks like with this paper, but the smooth Bristol is not a watercolor paper, so the water will not work out, but it's looking like if you decide to add a lot of water on, and your brush is very saturated with water, then you can get more, you can pick up the color and move it around. But let's see what we can do if we make the color darker, like we layer it. See if we can add like shading or something to it. Okay, let's try this. So I mean, not really are we seeing any shading, because again, it's still the same pigment we're picking up. We're just picking up more of it and moving more of it around. So I'm guessing from what I'm seeing, you're gonna want to use a different color in order to shade. And the water, from what I'm seeing with this one marker, is just that you're gonna have to use, it's gonna be basically, you can do a light wash of watercolor on an illustration, and then you can use the markers to shade it. But we will look at that more in the future of this video. So this is the Strathmore cold press watercolor paper. And we are now going to try the exact same thing. We're going to lay down the color and see what it looks like. So it looks like it eats the paper a little bit more, but it also saturates the tooth of the paper more. This is a watercolor paper, so just to let you know. Let's lay down the pen. And yes, if you layer multiple times, the color does get darker, like the other ones. Let's try and blend it out though. First method looks a lot more successful than the second method. Let's try and do the watercolor technique. So what this seems to look like is that the pen, if you layer the pen more on this paper, like I did the other ones where you make a circle and color it in, the color actually looks darker than the other attempts on the other papers, which is really cool. So let's do a side-by-side comparison of all three papers. So here are all three papers side by side, and let's just take a peek and determine which paper will be more successful for us to use. So we have the B Paper Company paper, the Smooth Bristol paper, and the Strathmore cold press watercolor paper. For blending, our best result was method number 1 on the B Paper Company paper, which is cool. But our best watercolor result was on the Watercolor Strathmore cold press paper. So, if you want to do a marker picture, then a paper like the B Paper Company paper is a better suit for you. It has a decent amount of tooth to it, but if you want to do a watercolor picture, then you would want to use a thicker watercolor paper, and make sure you saturate the paper with the color that you are using. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do an illustration using both techniques on the Strathmore cold press paper, and I will go into more topics of review during that speed paint. Hey, okay, so we are now here with the coloring portion, the demo portion of this review. This is also our final part of the review, so thank you guys for watching so far, and please continue because I have some really good points I want to hit on. So I am doing the coloring of one of their mascots, Hime, and no, they didn't ask me to draw Hime, but I thought it'd be appropriate to draw Hime since that's what, I don't know, I always wanted to draw Hime, and I thought it'd be fun. So, let me just talk to you guys about this picture. The watercolor method that I mentioned before, only use that with the darker tones. Using it with the lighter colors, it didn't work out that well, as you can see. Was not the funnest thing, not the funnest thing, but that's wrong phrasing. It wasn't the most successful as it could have been, so I would say use that only with the darker colors. But these markers do blend with each other very nicely using the methods we tried before with like the pen and then the darker color. It did work out well, so just letting you guys know about that. That was successful. Also, I would recommend that you use these markers like exactly with method 1 we tried before, because that worked out really well. And now we're just gonna move along into the pros and cons portion. So we're gonna mention the cons first because we're gonna end on a happy note. Okay, so cons. I would recommend getting a more variety in colors, because we tend to have, like, with this marker grouping, I know these aren't like a professional supply, they aren't professional, but they are a nice student quality brand, so I would recommend trying these markers out if you want to step up from Crayola markers, so I would recommend that, because, like I said, I would just recommend maybe getting a more extensive color variety. If it were me, I would appreciate seeing some Caucasian skin tones, because generally most artists color with Caucasian colors and for skin tone, or I would just recommend seeing more variety in their skin colors or flesh tones, like Caucasian, African, whatever. I would recommend, like, I would like to see more variety in just colors in general. Also, English translation would be very appreciated on these markers. It would be nice. I know they are from Japan, so they're not going to have like a English translation, but if we're looking into getting these supplies to be more international, I would recommend, like, you know, knowing what the colors are when you read them on the label instead of like not knowing and just guessing. I mean, you could make a color swatch chart, which is what I did, but you don't see it featured though because I had it off to the side. But that's what I would recommend because that would help me out a lot, and I know that would help out other artists. If we could get an English translation on the barrel, that would be fun. But the design of the markers look awesome. Also, the black. It was a little funky when I did the watercolor technique. Now, these are not watercolor markers, so they're not meant to do what I'm doing. But the pigment, when I dried, I had to go over with purple, you'll see later, but it looked like yellow, and I was like, what is this? I was like, okay. And then the final thing I want to cover is some of them, when I got them, were dry. Like, the teal you saw in the beginning, that was dry. Like, I was using it, and it was like, not. I was like forcing the color out of that thing. Now there is a temporary fix you can do. Like I said, it's temporary. You can dip the chisel end into water and let it soak up for a little bit. Not a long time, but like dip it in for like 10 seconds and then close it. And just every time it dries up, you can do that. But that's only a temporary fix. It's not going to last a while. So I'd recommend, like, I don't know what the procedure is over at Kirarina, but it was a little funky to see them dry. That's a general thing that happens. It's probably a manufacturing problem. That's just something I noticed. It happened with one of the pinks, too. Now, on to the pros. So, these colors blend very well as markers. The marker is, like, they blend so nicely. If you're just using the pen to marker, no watercolor involved. No, like, water involved in this. Also, the colors are very vibrant, and I really like the vibrancy of the colors and the pigmentation and how saturated they look. The design of the markers as well are really cool to look at. They're very visually appealing, I think. So that's a fun thing because you don't want to see, if you're buying a marker, you don't want to see something that's very like that. It's very bland. It's like meh. Marker brands. I would recommend moving up to this before moving to a more professional supply. These are not in the same family as Copic markers or Pro markers. They're not alcohol-based markers. These are water-based markers, so they can't be compared equally. But I would recommend these for anybody that's working on improving and doesn't know they should upgrade to a higher quality. I'd recommend these because these do work very nicely. And yeah, overall these markers are decent. I like them. I'll probably use them in my sketchbook for stuff. But yeah, other than that, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. These markers are nice, so I would recommend if you want to get a nice marker to like have fun with and like make some cool different, like, because they do blend very nicely. I would recommend these markers. I wouldn't recommend them as watercolor markers like I tried, but I would recommend them as normal markers because they are better than Crayola. That is a fact because I know what Crayola is. So does everybody. These do work nicely. They have cool blending options when you're using different colors. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll leave the link to OtakuFuel.com if you guys want to go check them out. Thank you, OtakuFuel, a lot for providing me with these supplies. And I will see you in another video. Alright, bye guys!